reclaiming the throne. Then came Shedden, the massacre that wiped out almost the entire Canadian Bandidos chapter. When the dust settled, Lenti saw an opportunity. On May 24, 2006, he returned to the club. And this time, he wasn't just another member, he was taking control. Rivals like Sandom and Pierre Carlito Aragon, they were in the way, and Lenti had no patience for men who didn't belong. Emails started flying. One of Lenti's guys sent a message to Sandom. "It's time for the Canadian Bandidos to stop looking like assholes in front of the USA and get along." Sandom snapped back, "You are asking me to throw down my patch." Over bullshit. But deep down, he was afraid. Afraid of Lenti's mafia ties, afraid of his reputation, afraid of the stories, the ones about men who crossed him and never saw out of both eyes again. And in the end, that fear won. Sandom stepped aside. Lenti took over. He wasn't just back, he was in control. The night everything changed. December 2nd, 2006. A Saturday night at Club Pro Adult Entertainment in Vaughan. Lenti was on duty. His job? To keep the peace. To make sure men who thought they ran the world didn't run his club. That night, trouble walked through the doors in the form of 4 Hells Angels. At the front of the pack, David White Dread Buchanan, a man built for violence, sergeant at arms, ruthless, dangerous, and that night, he was drunk and out for blood. "You shut up, motherfucker, old guy. Who's looking at who, motherfucker?" He wasn't just making noise. He was pushing Lenti, testing him, and the whole time, Lenti stood calm. The security footage later told the full story. A man trying to defuse the situation. A pack of bikers looking for a reason to start a war. Lenti tried to steer them into the lobby where the cameras were rolling. A smart move, a calculated one. He knew what was coming, and then it happened. In the heat of the standoff, Buchanan lunged, and in that moment, Lenti made his move. His right arm slipped behind his back. A smooth, practiced motion. The gun came out. 7 shots. 6 seconds Buchanan dropped. Multiple hits to the body. Carlo Virilli took a bullet to the stomach. Donna Carnegie was grazed but managed to stumble out, driving himself to the hospital. The rest, they scattered. When the dust settled, Lenti was the last man standing. The aftermath. No one found a weapon on Buchanan. Lenti swore he thought the man was armed, but intent mattered less than the outcome. The next day, he turned himself in. He walked into the station, face to face with Detective Angelo De Lorenzi. No running, no excuses, just one statement. "I went to the lobby to have it recorded. I wasn't looking for trouble. I defended myself." And the surprising part? Even some Hells Angels agreed. Buchanan had crossed the line. The calls started coming in to Lenti's family. The message? Lenti did what had to be done. Even a former Hells Angel informant later admitted, inside the club, people knew Lenti had once saved a life. What he did, harsh as it was seen as a necessary response. That night at Club Pro, Lenti didn't just win a fight. He proved, once again, why no one could ever count him out. A deal with the system. April 14th, 2008. Frank Lenti stood in court, pleading guilty to manslaughter. The killing of David White Dread Buchanan had led him here. Justice Michael Brown laid it out plainly. Buchanan had attacked first. He had thrown punches, and that gave Lenti a real reason to fear for his life. But the problem? The extra shots. Lenti hadn't just fired once. Even after Buchanan hit the ground, he kept shooting. That was the detail that could have turned this into a murder conviction, but the security footage didn't lie. It showed Buchanan as the aggressor. Lenti wasn't hunting, he was reacting, and in the end, he took the deal. A guilty plea to manslaughter, 2 counts of aggravated assault for shooting Virilli and Carnegie. With that, the trial ended, the plot that unraveled. But while Lenti was facing his own judgment, there was another case falling apart. The murder plot against him, the one the Hells Angels had set in motion, was coming undone. By late 2008, the charges against Ray Ackley and Mark Stevenson were collapsing. Then came the bombshell. In November, Ackley admitted in court he had been a police informant since 2002. And the biggest liar in the room? Stephen Galt, the same rat who once spun a web of conspiracies that led nowhere. His testimony crumbled under scrutiny. By January 2009, the verdict was in. Ackley and Stevenson were acquitted, and for many in the biker world, it vindicated Lenti. He had been targeted, he had been set up, and in the end, he survived. 2014, after years behind bars, Lenti walked free. But his story wasn't over, because if there was one truth about Frank Lenti, trouble always found its way back to him. A man caught between worlds. Frank Lenti wasn't just an outlaw. He was a father, a survivor, a man who lived by his own code. But that code didn't just shape his own life, it cast a shadow over his son's future. 2007, his son, Jesse, had one dream: to serve his country. He tried to enlist in the Canadian Army, and he was turned away, not because of anything he had done, because of his father. When the news broke, Lenti didn't hold back. "I'm the criminal, so why punish him?" The public was divided. Some saw justice, others saw injustice. Even historian Jack Granatstein called out the army for overstepping. Because Jesse, he wasn't his father, not even close. Ray Lefebvre, vice principal at St. Joan of Arc Catholic School, described Lenti as a strict but protective parent, even approving corporal punishment if it meant keeping Jesse in line. Jesse himself later admitted, "If I ever joined a biker club, my dad would hunt me down. He'd probably rip the club's patch off and smack me across the head with it." Even York Region Police Chief Armand Labarge confirmed Jesse had no ties to organized crime. The rejection stung. To Jesse, it sent a brutal message. "What they're trying to tell me is, we don't want you to do good, do bad. I'm trying to go in a straight line." But even as his son struggled to break free from his shadow, Lenti's own battles weren't over. Another attempt on his life. December 20th, 2016. Vaughan. Lenti was home when a lone gunman took his shot. The bullet grazed his collar. The second shot never came because the assassin's gun jammed. That one moment, the kind most people wouldn't survive, gave Lenti just enough time to react and live. It was at least the third time someone had tried to kill him and failed. A biker on his own terms, 2019, a cafe in York Region. Lenti, now in his early 70s, sat across from an interviewer. He was still riding still, wearing his all-black 1999 Harley-Davidson Road King with a sidecar, and his jacket, black nylon, emblazoned with a single word: criminal. A gift from some American Hells Angels. He chuckled about retirement. "I'm going to retire soon. When I want to, not because I'm scared." And then, almost as if reflecting on how much the world had changed, he joked, "You look like a hoodlum." Even legends evolve. The legacy of Frank Lenti. Frank Lenti wasn't just a biker. He wasn't just a fighter. He was a contradiction. A man who lived by a ruthless code, yet fought to keep his son out of the life. A man who refused to bow to anyone, but still earned respect from his enemies. He was admired, hated, feared, but above all, he was his own man. His journey, from Woodbridge to outlaw biker wars, from founding clubs to surviving assassination attempts, wasn't just about crime. It was about defiance, about what it means to live by your own rules, no matter the cost. And that cost? It was written in scarred skin, torn patches, and whispered stories from the underworld. Frank Lenti's name still lingers in the outlaw world, a cautionary tale, a legend, a man who refused to conform, and maybe, just maybe, the last of a dying breed, a cultural figure, for better or worse. Love him or hate him, one thing is certain: Frank Lenti's story isn't forgotten. His name still circulates, still gets people talking, because his life wasn't just about crime, it was about defiance, survival, a man refusing to be anything but himself. Even in the age of tweets, likes, and comment threads, his legend rides on.